All right, everyone. We got a couple of people joining. Let's get started, and we could go from there. And everybody else could join us as we're getting started. So hello, everyone. Again, thank you for taking the time to join us today. I see a lot of familiar names. My name is Jim Asip, and I am the Senior Sales Specialist with the APS Connections Marketplace. For those of you who are not familiar with the Connections Marketplace, we created it to make it easier for publishers to discover, to try, and to activate ad tech solutions. We do this by using your existing APS integration to activate these services and allow you to connect with the most in-demand ad tech solutions in the market. These seamless integrations mean that publishers are no longer required to devote time or expense to activate and to test these solutions to find the ones that are really the best fit for them and their companies. I am here today with one of the most popular services available in the marketplace and one of the original services, Confiant. Confiant specializes in blocking bad ads in real time, protecting publishers against malvertising, privacy risks, and any disruptive user behaviors and experiences. Through the Connections Marketplace, publishers are able to leverage their services to apply protection to both APS and non-APS sources of demand. If you guys are thinking about working with Confiant, I strongly suggest checking them out in the marketplace. You're able to take advantage of their free 30-day trial that they offer APS publishers, and you're able to get started with just a few clicks. I've received a few questions leading up to this from the various publishers that I talked to. I'm going to bring them up throughout the presentation, and then we're going to save some time at the end for Q&A. But if anybody does have any questions as we're running through this presentation, please add them to the chat, and Taylor, myself, or anybody else from the Confiant or APS team will make sure to get back to you. On that note, now I'm going to hand it over to Taylor Hamill, the customer success lead at Confiant. And Taylor, I'll let you take it from here before I interrupt you with a whole bunch of publisher questions.
Perfect. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for the intro. And thanks everybody for joining. We're thrilled to be here today, especially alongside the APS team. They're incredible to work with, as I'm sure every publisher on this call knows. And it's an amazing opportunity to so easily offer our service through the Connections Marketplace. So I'll kind of start with the core concept of what we're talking about today. And you saw it in the title when you saw that slide when you first entered the room, and that is eliminating what keeps us up at night. As publishers, I'm sure you're no stranger to losing sleep as a result of readers possibly reporting bad ads on your sites. And we all know, those of us who have been there and experienced that ad ops life at a publisher know that it's not just sleep we're losing, it's actual real time spent behind a computer screen, tracking down some unwanted ad, some intrusive ad, sometimes on the basis of a description or a screenshot alone. And you can really substitute this concept that we're talking about today of losing sleep with any other time, any other opportunity you might have as a publisher to conduct some revenue generating activity. And that really gets to the core of why this is important and why we all care about this. The bottom line is that bad ads are simply bad for your business. So I talked a little bit about that operational headache that we all know. And I won't say know and love, just know very well. But really bad ads on your site sort of kicks off this vicious cycle, this flywheel of negative outcomes for your business. Obviously, we know that bad ads create a poor user experience. That's why readers complain about them to us. That poor user experience can cause strain between you and your readers, and it can also cause strain between you and your demand partners when you report these instances upstream. Annoyed readers are obviously less likely to spend time on websites, less likely to patronize websites, and that ultimately leads to lost revenue for publishers. We've already addressed this a little bit, but using operational time and resources to track down bad ads is just yet another cost at the expense of other revenue generating activities. And of course, with enough friction, enough instances of this, publishers can ultimately have a tarnished reputation. We've all, whether as publishers or as readers, seen comment sections blow up on websites about reports of bad ads, and that's not a space that anybody wants to be in. So the bottom line really is that unwanted ads, bad ads, and we'll get into defining those in just a little bit here, have a real impact on your business and directly affect your ability to maximize revenue. And of course, I also want to reflect briefly on something that we keep centered in our conversation with our publisher partners at Confiant, and that is that, of course, bad ads impact your business, but they also impact real people. When publishers engage with your content, they do so for many reasons. That can be access to information, maybe just fun, obviously education, or access to incredibly valuable resources. And when they do that, they have an expectation of security, an expectation of consistency in the ability to navigate through a site, and an expectation of maintaining privacy. Unfortunately, when we measure outcomes in the ad tech space, we see that those expectations are all too often violated. We have some stats here from our 2023 Malvertising and Ad Quality Index. And in that, this aggregates all impressions that we see across the web. We found that 1 in every 500 impressions posed some security issue on page, and 1 in every 222 impressions had a quality issue. I'll talk a bit about those and the distinctions between the two, but to briefly describe, security issues for Confiant contain things like forced redirects, malicious landing pages, criminal scams, phishing scams, and other like instances or incidents on the web. Quality issues, meanwhile, are more focused on things like technical attributes of an ad that might be obnoxious or intrusive to a user. There are some other items that go into quality, and I'll talk about those briefly, but wanted to make sure we had those definitions out of the way.
Hey, Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
One question on this slide, and actually going back to the previous one on the vicious cycle, right? I've used that example with publishers, and I think one of the important things of realizing, right, like this real impact that it actually has on their business. What does that mean when we're talking about revenue, right? Because we do know that vicious cycle will always contain, but if a pub comes to you and says, yeah, but what's the real damage? Do you have any numbers that you could share?
Sure, yeah, I will try to be not too vague, but I'll start by saying that it depends on the size of the publisher, obviously, but there are no publishers that are not impacted. We have plenty of publishers come to us looking to solve a problem, and they're telling us that they're losing many tens of thousands of dollars over the course of a year. And that's something we can help them address. I'll talk a little bit later in the deck about a specific case study of a publisher that came to us with exactly that situation, where not only were they losing money as a result of wasted man hours, but also losing reader engagement on their site. And some of our tools were able to help them overcome that. But yes, this problem exists for every publisher, and it only grows in scale with the publisher. The larger the publisher, the larger the problem.
All right, great, thank you.
So I think probably most of what I've talked about so far, this problem that exists, and the headache that a company is dealing with it, is not a surprise to anybody. And that sort of begs the question, why does it continue to persist? Why is this something we all have to deal with constantly? And the answer really is that the digital ad ecosystem lacks control. It presents an enormous challenge for publishers in terms of control, both from just the scale that exists in terms of the billions of transactions that are occurring on a regular basis. And also of, we looked at some of the stats in the last 2 slides, the scale of the issues that exist within those impressions themselves. So this is a vast number of monitorable instances that no individual, let alone team at a publisher, could keep up with. So Confiant really offers to publishers the ability to regain that control. And I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like. So when we think about control, and this is how we advise publishers that use our solution, we encourage them to think of control in sort of three pillars, 3 buckets. That is quality, security, and privacy. I've already touched on a couple of these, but we'll dive into them deeper. When we think about quality, we are asking ourselves and encouraging the publisher to ask themselves if their site is an environment that can easily be navigated without the nuisance of obnoxious ads that deter from the overall user experience, whether that be, the content of the ad itself, the behavior of the ad, or the ad's impact on the overall speed of the site. When we think about security, we're asking, is the publisher site and therefore the readers safe from malicious exploits? And lastly, when we focus on privacy, which is a relatively new product for us and actually something that's really unique in the ad verification space, we're looking at and asking, is the publisher site a place where a specific reader is free to dictate if and when they consent to be tracked? And when they provide that consent or retract that consent, is that wish being obeyed? Are all third-party entities on page adhering to that request? So for each of those pillars, we offer a suite of tools that are easily enabled in the connections marketplace, and I'll dive into each of those. So for quality, we offer a lot of customizable controls that really allow the publisher to go beyond just basic ad blocking and really tailor the user experience on page. Publishers gain access to obviously a host of technical behavior controls, controlling for things like unwanted expansion, unwanted audio, unwanted video. But they also gain access to highly accurate controls that pertain to the actual content of the ad itself, which is pretty special. These are things like blocking for specific brands, blocking for specific categories, and a relatively new issue type that we're seeing increasing adoption on, and it's blocking for misleading claims. So this is actually looking at the content of the ad or the landing page itself and allowing a publisher to maintain control over directing readers to a page that might, pose an offer for a product that has dubious quality or something like that, or the ad itself has a dubious claim. So publishers regain that control and can therefore provide a better experience to their readers.
Taylor, I'm going to jump in again real quick because this is something that I think is important to drill in on. So most of the publishers that we talk to, right, for Confiant, for any ad tech solution, it's all about the controls. And you mentioned misleading claims was the one that you guys most recently added. What do publisher adoption tend to look like with this? Do we see publishers leaned into using more of these new filters? How often are you guys adding new filters, and what does that look like for the pub experience?
Yeah, it's a great question. For quality specifically, we've seen effectively an ever increasing adoption of these filters over the past couple of years. And that's not necessarily because there's a growing instance of these issues happening. We're just seeing publishers demand more and more that they really have the ability to customize the experience on their sites. I also think there is a component of publishers getting past what we thought of a couple of years ago as the rash of noisy security problems, that being forceful redirects. Once that sort of calms down, the publisher is allowed or enabled to focus on other problems they want to solve. So not to say security is ever going to go away. That is going to be forefront, and I'll get into that in the next slide. But once publishers feel more comfortable about mitigating security issues, there's that desire for enhanced control on the quality side. So yeah, your point, misleading claims being one of the newest issue types, we are adding these types of features pretty constantly. It really comes down to what publishers are asking us for more than anything. We're not in the business of making features that we release and people say, oh, that's really pretty and nice, but no thanks, no thanks. The fact that we introduced filtering for misleading claims, that we introduced filtering for better filtering, I should say, for brands and categories, is a direct result from feedback from publishers. So not only are we seeing it in the stats that these blocks are increasing, but we're hearing it from our publishers that control is absolutely demanded.
Awesome. Thank you.
So in addition to those quality controls we just touched on, Confiant also offers a full spectrum of security controls. I've already mentioned a couple of these threat types, but of course we're protecting publishers from ads like forceful redirects, different types of scams, whether they be phishing scams or criminal scams. But there is one item here that I want to call out specifically that's unique to Confiant, and that is filtering for what we call high-risk ad platforms. So Confiant is a security company, first and foremost. This is really our bread and butter, and we take protecting publishers and their readers very seriously. To that end, we've curated a specific list that clients get access to that we call high-risk ad platforms. And what this effectively is an ever-evolving list of ad-serving domains that our security analysts have deemed to be excessively risky, shall we say, for publishers and their readers. Publishers can add that filtration as an optional security filter for enhanced protection, But we effectively do see nearly universal adoption in our publisher base with that tool, as it is a pretty unique offering that enables, we'll go back to it time and time again, but enables that enhanced control.
Taylor, in addition to everything listed here, I promise I'm going to stop interrupting you with all this, but in addition to
I love it
here, every time we see security, first thing everybody's thinking is AI, right? Like criminals getting smarter. How does that factor, whether it's for high risk ad platforms, phishing scams? How does that go into what Confiant is looking at and approaching some of these security threats?
Yeah, it's a great question, and obviously something that's on everybody's mind in tech, and it's certainly on Confiant's mind. I'll give a really soft, quick plug. At the Ad Monsters Ops conference last week, our co-founders gave a presentation about AI in malvertising and the impacts it'll have. I would say that our security team's general feeling about AI is more that it might be a means to an end. You might not see in this list of malicious threats AI take on a specific threat, but it will certainly, in our opinion, enable threat actors to conduct these threats at a unprecedented scale, whether that be using AI to, gain quicker access to the DSP platforms where they ultimately sit and distribute these attacks, using AI to orchestrate, ever-changing malicious code that's harder to track, or using AI to stand up sites for their fake agencies that to the human eye might not appear as templatized as they do today. So it'll only enable threat actors to get more and more savvy about their attacks, and we do anticipate that will probably increase the frequency of effectively account acquisition on different DSPs. Now, I'll also say this: we don't want to just fearmonger about AI. I was listening to one of our security engineers talk this week about it, and AI might be a boon to security detections as well. We can actually leverage AI on our side to conduct new detection types and look for signatures that might indicate threats. So the bad actors might implement some techniques with AI, but we will too, and we'll be in lockstep with them.
All right, great. Good to know it's going to help the good guys as well as the bad.
Yep. So I'll move on to sort of drill into a specifically useful tool that I think would be of interest to publishers, and we see a ton of adoption across our current publisher base. And that is enhanced categorization tools for publishers. Publishers really face a huge challenge in terms of accurately categorizing ads. And that leaves publishers exposed. Of course, a lot of categorization in OpenRTB is being done based on the A domain, the advertiser domain for an ad, that is most often self-declared at the level of the DSP. And that can leave a discrepancy between the presumed ad that is going to serve on the page and the ad in actuality that serves on page. So that's a risk for publishers, and one that we wanted to help solve. So we integrated multiple points of analysis to get more enhanced data-rich categorization for publishers. We do look at advertiser domain, but we also look at the content of the landing page itself and the content of the creative. And that can come into play in a couple of ways. We can do things like imagery analysis for excessive skin, things like that, or even look for keywords within ads and allow publishers to block based on key phrases that might be associated with a specific category. That all backs into a custom categorization taxonomy that we have that actually pertains to ad categorization itself and not just more broadly content categorization. And we, again, see publishers adopt this at great scale. It actually makes up for the majority of our publisher blocks that we see on a regular basis. You'll see some of the most popular category blocks. They likely won't be very surprising to those on the call, but gambling, pharmaceutical, drugs, and cryptocurrency. One that you do see far down the list right now is political advertising. But based on historical trends, and as the US enters another major election season, we anticipate volumes for political advertising blocks to absolutely skyrocket. So another incredibly useful tool that Confiant offers to publishers is the creative library. We talked about it a bit in that first slide, but operations teams can spend a great deal of time looking for creatives based on vague descriptions or screenshots And that might look like, sitting down at the website, putting on some proxies and refreshing the page for hours on end, looking for a specific ad. The creative library allows a publisher to see every ad that's served on their site. That goes for both ads where there are issues detected, meaning some quality issue or security issue, but also ads where there are no issues detected. So this is really a solution that allows insight into everything. So that level of transparency can really be a benefit to teams in terms of time savings, just by simply leveraging some of these simple filters that we've put in place to search for things like creative ID, advertiser domain, look for specific ads from specific providers, and really hone in quickly on an ad that you're searching for and block it if need be. So drilling down from that creative library, I want to showcase a little bit of the creative results that are available in the Confiant UI. These results include a lot of valuable metadata, like the source of the creative ID. We obviously list brand and category here, along with screenshot and landing page. But I want to quickly dive into the ad heaviness and text analyze that you see in the upper right. So we offer a lot of controls to publishers around ad heaviness. Of course, there is filtering for network load. That is the total kilobyte weight of initial and polite load. Filtering for distinct hosts, but really one thing I want to call out is this filtering you see here for flagged by Chrome heavy ad intervention. So again, going back to talking about getting feedback from publishers and building features based on that feedback, we heard from a lot of publishers over the past couple of years that as the Chrome browser rolled out policies related to heavy ads, they wanted the ability to filter for ads that would violate those policies. And that's exactly what we've delivered in that feature. So what a publisher can do is set that filter and look for instances where we've detected that the Chrome browser has dictated that a particular ad violates the heavy ad policy, and the publisher can avoid serving that ad so as to not be hand slapped by the Chrome browser. Last bit here, text analyzed. I touched on this a little bit, but we're doing character recognition in ads, which is an exciting thing to see publishers begin to adopt. From the text that's grabbed within the ads, publishers can look for particular keywords or key phrases and actually filter or block based on those phrases. So yet more sort of enhanced controls that allow for really curating what ad content shows up on the site. So I'll touch on the final pillar. If you remember, we talked about sort of these three pillars of control: quality, security, and privacy. And the third is privacy. Again, this is a new feature that we're offering to publishers. I should add that it is available to any publisher that connects to us through the connections marketplace. The feature parity between a direct integration with Confiant or integrating using the simple solution in CXM is absolutely equal. So you won't miss out on any features. But Confiant has started offering this unique set of features that effectively allows publishers to investigate every third-party entity that is collecting data on their website. The important thing to know here is that this tool allows you to observe on an impression-by-impression basis whether readers' consent under different legal frameworks like GDPR or CCPA are actually being obeyed. So you can think of this as an add-on to the CMP you're deploying. The CMP is collecting consent from the readers. The Confiant solution is detecting whether or not that consent that was provided was actually being obeyed. This tool also provides fully shareable reports, so you can escalate issues up to your demand partners and have conversations that allow you to mitigate risk to your business. And I will add here, why care about this? It might seem obvious to many, but worth mentioning. We really see the fines that were observed in relation to GDPR and CCPA over the course of 2022 as really the tip of the iceberg. We think more legal action will be coming, and it's important for publishers to understand when they are in regulatory compliance. So we've released this feature within the last year and are seeing increased adoption from existing publishers, but we anticipate publishers will have an increasing need for this type of filtration. So I wanted to wrap up really with a real world study of how a publisher has implemented a lot of these solutions and gained back time. One of our publishers, Fandom, came to us, and they had done an analysis showing that they were not only losing time and resources operationally as a result of bad ads, but they were seeing diminished reader engagement on their website. Readers experiencing slow load times, obnoxious ads, just put up their hands and said, I don't want to be browsing here anymore. So they came to us asking for help. And in the analysis that they conducted before and after, they actually saw really phenomenal results. Exactly going back to the flywheel of outcomes that I discussed in the first slide. Fandom was able to really counter those bad outcomes. They were able to improve operational efficiency and site performance. Readers spent more time on page, increased revenue opportunities. Just a fantastic outcome. I'll talk a little bit. You see the number here, saving time and money per week. That is really just the material impact of saving man hours operationally, but doesn't capture increased time on page that leads to more revenue. But ultimately, this is the type of ROI that our publishers are seeing when they integrate with Confiant, gain back control, and create that great user experience.
For everybody on the call, Confiant's available in the Connections Marketplace. Please reach out to Taylor, myself, the APS team, the CXM team. Confiant would be happy to dive into more detail about their time to detection, the way that they approach new threats that enter the marketplace, and really how they can just set you up for success for the rest of the year. And again, thank you all for taking your time.